Welcome to episode 391 of the DFO Rundown, as always presented by Bet365, where you can get in the game. Of course, Stanley Cup Final, Game 3 tonight, Game 4 on Thursday, Game 5 on Saturday, and then we'll see if there's a 6 and 7 needed. Get in on that, NBA and more at Bet365. I'm Jason Gregor alongside Frank Seravalli, and we'll get to the Stanley Cup Final in a bit. We're also going to talk about another coaching change. So that'll be 9 new head coaches at the start of next season. Unreal. As Pete DeBoer was let go by Dallas since we last had a pod. But let's start with buyout candidates, because we are getting closer to buyout season, less than 21 days away, really, for the closing of that. So last year there were 7 players bought out. You got a list of a few that we can discuss today. If my most obvious candidate for a buyout would be, who's yours? Most obvious one that you think's a lock?
TJ Brodie, I think, is a stone cold lock, but I would say that Matt Dumba is probably pretty close. He's not far behind. Look, we all know what the Dallas Stars cap situation is like. A handful of $1 million to spend on a handful of players to finish out their group. And it's going to take a lot more than that. They're going to be scrounging under couch cushions to try and find some space to rebuild or reshape their team. And it's probably going to include trading away a player or two in order to rejig this. But Matt Dumba had fallen out of favor, had lost trust, did not play a playoff game. And if you're looking for an easy way to clear off $2.3 million for a player that you may not use at all, Dumba makes a lot of sense. So that's the cap savings for next year. Now, after I put out this list, it seemed like Matthew Darche, new general manager of the New York Islanders, signaled that he will not be using a buyout on Pierre Engvall. But that's fine. I don't know that makes a ton of sense, though. He's a guy that was a healthy scratch, placed on waivers twice. Yes, part of this was under the old regime, but still the same head coach. And if the same head coach doesn't have a ton of use for the player, why not just rip the Band-Aid off and take the $2 million worth of savings, and it's $1 million on your cap for the next 10 years. I know no one wants a 10-year cap hit, but isn't it more of a pain to deal with the player? And you could save a ton of money in like $5 million in real cash.
Yeah, $5 million cash and $2 million cap space every year too. So that's a pretty big bonus for a team that, there's another great example of term absolutely destroys you. I'll say it time and time again. First of all, why was Pierre Engvall ever given 7 years? What are we doing in the NHL?
That's not revisionist history, by the way.
No,
we all said that at the exact moment in time. 7 years. Why?
Yeah. Why? This is not long-term deals should be for superstar players. The other guys are very much replaceable at different times for different reasons on different teams. And Pierre Engvall, you look at some of the worst contracts ever handed out. That's right up there. People get mad at a guy who gets overpaid, Frank, and you know what? He's making $8 million. He should make $7 million. I said, yeah, but he's still playing every night. He's playing 27 minutes for your team. This guy, as you mentioned, is healthy scratched all over the place. It's ridiculous. But to me, it's Matt Dumba, I think, for sure. The fact that you get to the playoffs and you're calling up Alex Petrovic and he's playing every game ahead of him and is playing quite well. I just don't see it. And he makes $775 the next year. Right? $775,000, that is. To me, that's a no-brainer that you're going to keep him.
So can I ask you this? Given the success that Petrovic had playing in the playoffs, and I think everyone saw it and agrees, why did he clear waivers? Why wouldn't someone scoop him up?
Dude, it's a great question, because he played in the playoffs last year too. I think it's an illustration of teams. They kind of fall in love with some of their own guys. And because we could go down the list of teams that could have used a quality, solid third pair defenseman. And some of these teams were brutal, Frank. And this guy's playing on a good team, and he's playing well. You look at his
Even if
numbers.
he's not, let's say he's not a third pair guy. Let's say you're going to use him exclusively as a 7. Okay. And you have no plans to have him in your lineup on a nightly basis next season. Isn't that the ideal 7 for you? He's a vet that doesn't require attention. You don't have to worry about him sitting for too long because, that's the big worry when you have guys that are 22, 23, 24 years old. You're like, I'd rather get this kid playing in the AHL on a nightly basis. You don't have to sweat that. And he's exactly the minimum that you can spend on the cap, bordering on 1% of your cap. Why wouldn't someone grab him? You can't tell me that 15 to 20 teams in this league have better options for a 7.
As I watched every game in the conference final, that just went through my head. I'm like, how are teams did this? Like, good for Dallas, but even Dallas, you're like, you guys kept them in the minors all year. Why? That's another one. Even like, obviously he gets up there and the coach likes him better. Now maybe the coach didn't know him, but he was there last year. Same coach. It's not there anymore. But it's an interesting one and it just shows you, like we were talking about, the fine line for a lot of players outside of maybe the top 20% is there's not much of a gap that separates a lot of these guys. Sometimes it's who likes you. Sometimes it's maybe you have a 20-game stretch where you got loads of confidence and you carry that into, a 3-year deal. So there's not much of a gap. Heck, look at the Edmonton Oilers. Kasperi Kapanen was on waivers and has become a huge part of their team. So Gustav Forsling on waivers, and many years later, look at him. So it's to me, it's still difficult to evaluate some players at times, but when you're a veteran who's been around that long, teams, I think, clearly missed the boat on Petrovic, and there's no chance that Dallas could slide him through waivers again this year. None.
Well, they just did. He has a year left on his deal. I don't understand. If they did it once, why wouldn't they be able to do it again? Clearly, other teams don't see him the same way.
Yeah, wow. I think twice people would be like, somebody be like, dude, we haven't even been in the playoffs. We got a chance to get a guy at league minimum who's got 2 years consecutive of the conference finals and playing well. Let's go. So
yeah, well,
we'll see.
31.
But the buyouts, buyouts are a way to clear up some cap space for sure and save money. And so if the Islanders, who knows, maybe they want to wait till another year and the buyout's still going to be similar. And then it's 8 years.
The buyout's going to be 8 years then instead of 10. Okay. I mean, again, when the cap's increasing so rapidly, $1 million it's nothing. It's nothing now. It's going to be even less then. 8 years from now? Are you kidding? We're talking about 0.5%. It's negligible dollars. So
yes. Yes, it's not.
By the way, the buyout window, as usual, opens 48 hours after the Cup final concludes. So once Lord Stanley is handed out, that's when the first window opens. And I do think as a whole, just for housekeeping purposes, with the cap increasing so significantly, there's a lot less of a need for buyouts this time around as opposed to during a few of the COVID years where the cap was static for a significant period of time. This is not that. And I'll be curious to see how many there end up being. Teams found a way to think about our buyout candidates last year. We had Pierre-Luc Dubois on there, found a way to make the trade and move off of a significantly damaging contract via trade as opposed to the buyout, which is always preferable. If you could get someone to take on Matt Dumba, by all means, that's the play as opposed to buying him out.
Yeah. I know you had Vlasic on there from San Jose, and I look at the Sharks, and yeah, I get the theory behind it because he's basically just playing third pair minutes now in San Jose. He's not the player he was at the heyday. Heck, probably 2 years into that contract, he wasn't the player that they signed. But, man, it's 1 year left. I wonder if they just bite the bullet. Like, do we really need to spend to the cap when we're the 32nd place team,
Well, that's the same. So people would say the same thing about Brodie and the Hawks. Like, just get through another year. And it's not really about the cap space because both of those teams have tons of cap space. So Vlasic chewing up $7 million, not about the space. It's about what do you do with the player if you've got other young guys that are ready to take that spot. You can't just leave him hanging in purgatory all year. It's not right to the player. So it's about freeing up roster space sometimes more than it is necessarily about the dollars. I mean,
that's fair.
There's real dollars at play too. Like in both cases, these teams are saving 7 figures in real cash dollars for a guy that you might not see play or enter the lineup all that often. You might as well at that point.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to do they think they have enough guys to fill in admirably?
The Blackhawks have too many. I don't know about the Sharks. The Sharks, their defense core isn't overloaded.
No,
but I'm sure there's someone somewhere that they'd like to get more time.
Yeah, I don't know about a young guy, maybe a mid-tier guy for sure. That's the one that would be interesting to me. And then, what would even a team like? I'm not even sure it'd be $1 million player in the free agent market, to be honest. At this stage, and why would he care if he's been sitting there after going to the conference finals and Stanley Cup finals and playoffs year after year after year for the first 12, 13 years or whatever it was of his career. He hasn't done much lately, so he might just sign somewhere where he can have a chance to compete. But
maybe he's played 1,300 regular season games. Maybe he's dying to be let off the hook to say, hey, I've seen my ice time dwindle here. It's been a great career. Won Olympic gold medal, played in all those playoff games, had significant moments, was a leader for a long time, one of the great true defenders of the game. Why not just hang him up? Sail off into the sunset.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I get that everyone wants to go out on their own terms, but man, if you said to me, maybe this says a lot more about me than anything else. If you said to me, and I'm Vlasic and I've played 1,323 games and another 100 plus in the playoffs, if not more than that. And you said, hey, we'll give you 2/3 of what's remaining and you don't have to train and play this season in another miserable year in the standings. Pretty sure I'm saying yes to that.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. Is that the best way you want to go? Because you probably still believe in yourself a little bit, but I could be wrong. Hey, let's move on to another coaching change. Not a major surprise if you consider how the season went, but to me, I'm just going to say that I think the NHL has jumped the shark on blaming head coaches for what's going on in their teams now. So this will be 9 new head coaches we're going to have at the start of next season for teams, right? Dan Muse in Pittsburgh. You've got Marco Sturm in Boston, Lane Lambert in Seattle, Blashill in Chicago, Adam Foote in Vancouver, Rick Tocchet in Philly, Joe Quenneville in Anaheim, Mike Sullivan with the New York Rangers. Now, that also includes the Jim Montgomery and Todd McClellan were added to their teams in St. Louis and Detroit midway through last season. And there was a boatload of off-season changes last year in Ottawa, Toronto, New Jersey, Winnipeg, San Jose, Columbus. You look at Chris Knobloch, who is in his 2nd season, Frank.
It's only his first full season, by the way.
Yeah. So he hasn't even coached. He's coached 151 regular season games. He's 10th on the games coach list. 10th. And then you've got 3 guys in Carberry, Brunette, and Huska who, started at the 23-24 season. That's when they started. So the only coaches who have actually been with their team for 2 full seasons, Paul Maurice in Florida, Bruce Cassidy in Vegas, Marty St. Louis in Montreal, Rod DeBod in Carolina, Jared Bednar in Colorado, and John Cooper in Tampa Bay. 6 coaches have been with their team for more than 2 years. Like, they talk about, we need team continuity and chemistry, but they're getting rid of their coaches now at just an alarming, ridiculous rate.
Well, in theory, I agree with you that the coaching shelf life is impossibly short. The average tenure for an NHL head coach is 2.3 years. That's insane. But I think 2 things can be true at the same time, in that, yes, it feels like teams need to slow their roll a bit, but at the same time, I felt like Dallas, having arrived at this point, needed a change. I mean, in some ways you could call him Pete DeBoer. 3 years in Dallas, out. 3 years in Vegas, out. I mean, it's been a number of different stops, 3 years in Florida, out. That he's had a ton of success. He's been to 6 Western Conference Finals in the last 8 seasons. But the way that he was unable to control himself in Dallas over the last few weeks of the season are a big reason why he's not coaching there anymore. You heard Jim Nill say it, and he's the ultimate gentleman in the NHL. But when he said that they felt that they had a decision to make after their exit interviews, that tells you all you need to know. He said that part out loud, that essentially the players are saying this isn't working. And it's not just the Ottinger thing. That's definitely part of it. But the morning of Game 5, the elimination game, he says in his press conference at the morning skate that the coach can't put the puck in the net, aka throwing the players under the bus. And then with the Ottinger thing, it wasn't just the odd way that he was yanked from the game, seemingly forgetting before talking to his team to tell the goalie that he's out of the net. But it's also the way he handled the press conference and everything after that. Like, you as a coach, I firmly believe this, your team takes on your personality. If you're calm, your team is calm. If you're rattled, your team is rattled. Look at Chris Knobloch, and it's just a great example because that's the team that they played to and lost to in each of the last 2 conference finals. They could not be more different personalities. And I think people see through whatever niceties you want to throw at them after the fact.
Yeah, well, I don't discount that, DeBoer, how he acted and more so what he said, and then really kind of doubled down even a week later or the Friday after when they had kind of their clearing out things. I guess I look at it, there are, you say, hey, multiple things can be true. It is true that Ottinger and the Stars had lost, 6 of or 7 of the last 8 games against Edmonton in the conference final.
But Ottinger said all that.
Yeah,
he threw himself on it. He said, I don't care who the coach is. I need to be better.
Yeah, and I agree with him. Their forwards, like, I look at they made it to the conference final, but look at the right side of their defense comparatively to the team that they lost to in Edmonton, right? Like, Edmonton went out and got Wallman and Klingberg, really changed their whole defense, and they'd beaten them the year before. And, Dallas just didn't really do that. And, they really haven't done that in a while. So, Matt Dumba was their answer, Frank, and
wasn't
failed
even
the
in the
test.
lineup.
Right. So I look at, and my point is probably a bigger scope than just Pete DeBoer, because I can understand, based on everything you said, why Dallas felt like, okay, this is a time to make a move. I understand it. But there always seems to be a reason. And I just think nowadays it's almost like it's a cop-out now. And you're just, the players don't like it. And, well, that's okay. And I'm the GM, and man, I've made a lot of real bad decisions here, but I'm going to change the coach, because guess what? If you get a new coach next year and you don't revamp and get some more speed up front and you don't change your right defense, guess what? Nothing's happening. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they even got to the conference final.
So totally agree with you about the right side of their defense. And back when it was the beginning of trade deadline season in January, I wrote exactly that when we were talking about what everyone's needs are. It was, got to fix the right side. It's no good. Harley and Heiskanen on the left side, fantastic, all world. But when your right side consists of what it did, it's not anywhere near good enough. But then they went out and shot their wad by getting Rantanen and didn't have anything else really left to trade. They got CC, right? They got Granlund. But I think the big thing that separated Dallas, aside from the inconsistencies that appeared in the playoffs, they aren't hard enough to play against. They're not a tough team to play against. And that part, I think, is what stands out.
Yep. I also felt like overall, like they don't have a ton of speed. Like Blackwell, he stood out for them. I thought Blackwell was excellent in the postseason. Right? I probably would have played him more minutes. Now, he's limited in finishing, but heck, if you could have given him some of the minutes that the other guys had, he might have finished. And they weren't finishing, and they were playing all the minutes. So,
what do you do with Matt Duchene?
Like
82 points last season, has played on 2 bargain contracts for you, and is now looking to get paid again, and rightfully so.
You know what? I think Matt Duchene right now, Frank, might be one of those, prime examples. He'll be what? He's 34. He did have the great year with Dallas and 82 points, and then he had 86 with Nashville and 56 and 65. And that's a really good question, because the thing about Matt Duchene is, I just look at this, Frank. So the last 2 years in the regular season, he scored 25 and 30 goals. Right? Really good. In the playoffs, in 19 and 18 games, he had 6 and 6 points. So am I paying Matt Duchene to be good in the regular season, or I want a guy who's going to be good in the playoffs? I think that's going to be their big challenge.
Right? You're going to have to more than 2x his pay. Like he should be somewhere in the 7s.
But then I wouldn't do it, because I'm just going to look at his career history: 13 goals in 69 playoff games, 37 points. Right? He's just above a half a point player. In the regular season, he's 891 points at 1138. Right? Like, very different.
But he I think is the poster child, and I'm not slagging him at all, but he's the poster child for what I was just saying, not hard to play against.
Yeah. So to me, if I know my team is lacking that, why would now be the time that I'm going to have to pay him $7 million? I would, it's a risk that you lose him, because some guys are very important to help you get to the playoffs. I think there's value in that in a league that only half the teams make the playoffs, which, by the way, I like. So there's value in it. But if you've had 2 consecutive playoff years where Matt Duchene has scored 2 goals in 19 games and then 1 goal in 19 games this year, I can't pay that guy. If it's me and I think I'm in a competitive window, I can't pay him $7 million.
Okay, so what do you do with Jamie Benn? Captain for a long time. Tim Kalishaw from the Dallas Morning News put out a column shortly after the season ended and said, if you want to bring Jamie Benn back, fine, not as captain. Thoughts?
Well, who would you give the captain to? That's always the question, right? Do you have somebody ready? Because the captain doesn't always have to be your best player. I don't abide by that. Do you have some, like, is it Thomas Harley? Is it Miro Heiskanen? Right? You have to know the personality of the player. Are they ready to be the guy who speaks up? Because you can still be a captain, and Jamie Benn's, like, first of all, he's $9.5 million, not anymore, right? Like, he might be a $3.5 million player, right? Like, that's where I would look at Jamie.
Slowed down a lot, and that's been utterly apparent. Yeah,
and so that's what I look at for a guy like Jamie Benn to kind of see, what he is like. You're still close to a 50-point guy, but here's the funny thing: like, you look at his age and everything. He's played the same 37 games as Duchene, and he has 18 points. Duchene has 11. Now, he has 5 goals. Duchene has 3. Like, they both only had 1 goal this year. So I would take Jamie Benn back, because I think he's a guy who can go down your lineup, Frank, and still contribute, because he's physical. You're right, the foot speed, but Corey Perry doesn't skate well, and you still find ways to contribute. So I would sign Jamie Benn in a heartbeat. As for the captaincy, I think to take a captaincy has to have a captain who realizes, you know what? I think there's someone else in the room who's ready to take on the role. And he would know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they're bringing Ben back. I think the question is what price? And Jim Nill was really clear in his press conference that he wants to have Ben back.
Oh, yeah. He makes sense to come back to me.
Yeah. But after that, I think they've got some really difficult decisions to make on the whole, because we can say what we want about the Toronto Maple Leafs and have this conversation about the core needing to change and all those questions. just because the Dallas Stars have gotten a round or two further consistently doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask the same question.
You can ask him, I guess. Short. Yeah.
You're not ultimately not good enough to win.
No, because I don't have McDavid and Draisaitl, right? That's the team who beats them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
right. Ultimately. So
they're never going to.
Yeah. And you're not going to go get McDavid and Draisaitl. So you'd have to change up something. I agree, though. I don't know if I would do a massive overhaul in Dallas, right? Like, I don't think there's a DNA necessary change in Dallas like there is in Toronto. I think it's different tweaks, but I don't think there's a DNA change. The Stars have made it to the Cup final in 20 with their core. They made it to the conference final in 23, 24, 25. Like, they've been pretty good. And it shows you how hard it is to win, like to win the ultimate prize. So, how do they?
I'd be really careful to trade Jason Robertson. I really would.
Oh, you can't change. He was coming off an injury. You're a team that was struggling to score. Trading Jason Robertson would be well, I guess unless you're getting a real goal scorer back in return, but no thanks.
Yeah, I think the big question, though, is heading into this last year of the deal at 7.75, north of a point per game player in his career. His next AAV starts with what?
9 or 10.
It's north of 10, for sure. 394 points in 374 games. 35 to 40 goal scorer every year.
Well, they paid Ben and Sagan 9.5, right? So I don't think
that doesn't have anything to do. That was 10 years ago.
No. But that's my point, Frank. The organization, I don't think they're going to shy away from paying Robertson 10 million.
No, I know, but I think they might. Their decision is trade him or sign him. It's no different than a lot of these other guys that are coming up in a year. You're either getting ahead of it now because you don't want to pay them, or you're going to agree to pay them. That's what I'm saying. It's not will they pay him. It's I guess it is. It's will they pay him, not how much will they pay him. They might just make the decision. This guy doesn't fit. We're gonna.
Well, to me, that'd be a bad decision. I'm signing. I don't even think Jason Robertson's a question to me. You got a guy who scores goals, I pay him, and he scores in the playoffs, right? Like he only played 11 games.
Scores goals, but we just said move on.
Matt Duchene doesn't score goals in the playoffs.
Okay.
Right? Like 10 goals by Robertson in 30 games compared to 3 goals in 37. Big difference for me. And he's younger. No, I'm paying Jason Robertson. Like, I didn't even think, like, if the Stars are considering trading Jason Robertson, I'd be like, what? Like,
yeah, that's the word on the street.
Wow. Well, that's, ask Colorado how that works. That's what I would say.
Well,
now Jason
Robertson aren't even in the same league, though.
But as far as being your best goal scorer at the time, yeah, they are. Right now, granted, it wasn't their best because they had Nate McKinnon. But to me, he's a really good player. I'm not, and unless there's something off of the ice I don't see, and I'm not privy to. I'm not around the team enough to make a statement on that. That's the only reason I would think to do that. Have you heard of anything like that?
No.
Yeah, I never have either. So we'll see. Let's bring in Ty Yaremchuk, and then we'll get to the cup talk.
Ready to roll with a new edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you. Game props, player props, totals, and money line. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older.
Hey, Ty, before we get going, can always tell when someone's on the road. Like, do hotels have to have the worst wallpaper in history? Like, look at that background behind you. Like, oh my God, it's unreal that someone decides like this is what we're going to put in our hotel room to make it inviting.
But then it also goes from that to like the worst fake brick imaginable. So nothing like quite lines up. Like the decor is all over the place.
It's like someone like me who has no, interior designing skill would be like, hey, I think this looks really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is wildly decorated in here. But anyways, first buy or sell question I had for you guys was about trading Jason Robertson. I was going to say the Stars trading Jason Robertson would be blank. So why don't you guys, I know you just talked about it, give me one word, Frank. If the Stars were to trade Jason Robertson, it would be blank.
I want to use 3 words: worthy of discussion.
Okay.
Like, why isn't it on the table to think about, talk about? if we're having the same conversations about Mitch Marner, about all these other guys, like everything should be on the table for the Dallas Stars to discuss. Everything. Conference final or not good enough, falling short. You're banging your head against the wall. I'm not, that's not being critical of the seasons that they've had. By all accounts, 28 other teams would love to be in the Final Four that many times. But it comes down to fit, it comes down to mix, it comes down to how you're projecting your cap moving forward. You're going to have to pay Thomas Harley. Like, you've got lots of decisions to make. Wyatt Johnson taking a big leap. Jake Ottinger's contract didn't start yet. I mean, at some point, there's just not enough money for everyone. And so I'm not saying it's not an indictment at all about Robertson, his play. I thought his season was very impressive after a slow start. It really just comes down to, are we 100% certain that this is the guy that's going to help get us to where we want to get to? I just think now's the time to have that conversation, knowing that you're making other changes, rip the Band-Aid off, and at least talk about it. I'm not saying trade him. I'm just saying worthy of discussion is my answer.
Greg's?
Well, of course you can. Hey, Gretzky got traded. You can trade anybody. So I understand that. However, to me, I'm going to say it's going to be regretful. If we're looking for one word, that's what I would say. Rarely do you trade the player who's a skilled player and you get somebody equal in return, and then you end up looking for him in a while. There's not a ton of guys around the league who score as many goals as Jason Robertson consistently. He's been pretty good in the playoffs. He's only 25 years of age. Like, I think this would be regretful. You name how many 25-year-old guys in the league are you going to say, hey, this guy's a better goal scorer than Jason Robertson? There might be a few like that are 25 and under. Not many. Draisaitl's not under. McKinnon's not under. So Obi isn't. So how many guys are? So to me, that's why I'd be rather Austin Matthews isn't younger. So I'd be very hesitant to trade Jason Robertson.
So one other thing to add too, and I know there's a ton of Stars talk in the last few minutes, but it's really interesting that the Stars decided to bypass Seth Jones, because now as they're reshaping and redoing this and watching Seth Jones play in Florida, his number one choice, his number one destination was Dallas. That's where he really wanted to play. And they showed no interest, to the point where then Florida became the only team kind of left in the sweepstakes. And now you see the money being chopped off of Jones's deal, how well and effortless he's played in Florida, and how much Florida, a team that was going to go out and spend to get that player anyway. I wonder if, like, as enticing and as exciting as Rantanen is, and maybe Rantanen then makes Robertson expendable, did they do this out of order? Should they have first gone and gotten Jones and then Rantanen? Or does it make sense to just try and get your hands on Rantanen? I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. I'm just saying I wonder if now having, like, where are you going to get a right shot defenseman of that quality? I guess you could say the same thing about Rantanen, but I just think there was a real imbalance. If you had said to me before, do the Stars have a good enough forward core to get through in the playoffs without Mikko Rantanen? My answer would have been yes. Do they have a good enough defense core on both sides of the ice to get to where they want to get to? My answer would have been no. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with it. Like, take care of the big area of need before you go get your needs before you go buy your wants, right? And maybe Rantanen was a bit more of a want than a need.
Yeah, wish I could do my budgeting the same way in this house.
All right, let's.
By the way, just want to point out, Jason Robertson, since he came into the NHL, is 13th in points in the NHL, and he is 14th in goals. And nobody is younger than him who's above him. So that's all.
So are you supporting my argument about Jones, or are you shitting on it?
No, well, about Jones, I think they need, I would have swung big at Jones for sure, because they needed a defenseman, right? Like, they have two defensemen. They needed another one. What would they have offered to give up, I think, is the question. But to do Jones ahead of Rantanen, like, I think they needed a game breaker, to be honest, Frank, but it's not Robertson. Like, you need two. Rantanen and Robertson now give you two. I think to win in today's game, you need two. and they didn't
So
have to.
What's
before.
Rupe Hintz? Like, I don't like.
I like
Total
Rupe Hintz. Yeah.
I like you see what I'm saying? Like they had other pieces already.
Yeah.
They didn't have anyone on the right side of their defense. And
Yeah.
where you like who's going to be available on the right side of your defense to be a difference maker now?
Well, no, that's fair. Yeah, there is some
Extremely hard
validity
to
in that.
find.
Yeah. No, there is some validity in that to say, hey, maybe they should have went to right defenseman first.
All right. Let's go one more off-season one, then I'll throw you a couple of quick Stanley Cup final ones as well. I'm surprised we haven't talked on this show, at least, about Jonathan Toews. Obviously, a lot of rumblings about, okay, could he go to, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, the Bowman connection, Quenneville connection in Anaheim, wherever Patty Kane goes, Toews will go. I'll frame it to you guys this way. There is a blank % chance that Jonathan Toews ends up with a Canadian team. Greg's?
It's a good question. Yeah, Winnipeg. Does he want to go to Toronto? I don't know. I'd be surprised if he went to Edmonton, to be honest. But so I'll say like a 20% chance.
Frank?
I'm going to say a little higher than that, 30%, because I think there's a real strong possibility with Winnipeg. Yeah. I don't think it's like Winnipeg or the field, but if you throw in, as you mentioned, you know, Edmonton, like if you're Edmonton though, and you're looking for that ideal 3C.
I think he skates well enough anymore.
How do you know? You haven't seen him healthy. He hasn't been healthy in how many years now?
Yeah, well, I think even before COVID, Toews was slowing down. That's to me, I think the concern is before he got long COVID, he was slowing down. I think he's a 4C, and there's nothing wrong with a 4C at 37, 38 years of age, that many years out of the league.
Okay, but the Oilers still don't have that 4C.
Unless
you can make the argument they're searching for a great face-off guy, all those things. Like they're still looking for it.
Sure.
So
it was a right shot. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, cap-wise, he's a fit. Like you can sign him to the league min bonus laden deal that makes him a no risk proposition, really, or low risk. So if I'm the Oilers, like I'm talking to Toews all day, especially given my connection. Like I'm going, hey, you know me running the team, you know our star players and what they're capable of, and you've got another chance to play for a Stanley Cup. You can go get a fourth with a second different team. You could say that in Winnipeg, but they haven't gotten to a cup final.
You can be a provincial hero if you're able to get the Jets over the hump.
Yeah. All right. Next one I got for you guys. There are 3 players in this Stanley Cup final who have 3 goals already. Marchand, Draisaitl, and Bennett. Bet365 always updating their futures bets over on the site. So they have the odds. Leon Draisaitl to lead the series in goals is -115. Bennett is +270. Marchand is +425. I'll ask you guys, the player that will lead the Stanley Cup finals in goals is blank, Frank.
Well, since the series now has 2 games potentially left in Edmonton and 3 potentially left in Florida, and Sam Bennett doesn't really score at home, I'm not going to say Sam Bennett. I'm going to say the player to lead the Stanley Cup final in goals will be Leon Draisaitl.
Going to take the favorite in Leon. Greg's, you go in a different direction, or is it obviously Leon?
Well, Frank's always talking about those are terrible odds to do it. So if I'm going purely on odds, I would take Mr. Marchand. But yeah, it's hard to overlook Draisaitl. The Oilers' power play is on a roll again. When he's the main trigger man, that's when their power play is the most successful. So yeah, although Sam Bennett, man, like I agree that is the weird stat. Like Sam Bennett's broke the NHL record for most road goals in a playoff year with 12. That's phenomenal. But he has 1 at home. Like, so I might go with Bennett because I think Bennett's due, but I think Edmonton's going to win still. So that's where I'm torn. But I don't want the same answer. So I guess I'll go Bennett.
So Sam Bennett has 13 goals in 19 games in these playoffs. He's a point per game player, yet his Conn Smythe odds are +550. He's 3rd on the board. He's behind Bobrovsky. Is does Bennett not have a better Conn Smythe case than Sergei Bobrovsky, or am I just maybe using a little bit too much of right here? The last couple of games are sticking in my brain,
No.
Griggs.
That's not recency bias. Like,
No?
if you look at his production, it's not even just the production. Like, how much of a pain in the ass is he in front of the Oilers' net?
Yeah.
And in front of every team's net to this point, like to the point where people are saying, hey, this needs to be a constant topic of conversation with the series supervisor to help get this under control. That's an impact player. And Bobrovsky's been fine. Like, I don't understand anyone going through the process from game one saying that Bobrovsky was outstanding. I listened to some coverage and people were saying, oh my God, the Panthers would have gotten rolled if not for Bobrovsky. Like, I don't agree. I think he was, for his standards, he was fine. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. But we know that the Conn Smythe conversation is weighed heavily on impact in the Cup final. I'd have to think if the Panthers win that Sam Bennett is the favorite from Florida's end.
Would he be your favorite, Griggs?
Well, on Florida, 100%.
Yeah.
So he's third. So
Yeah,
the
he's behind.
Bobrovsky's ahead of. So he's higher than Draisaitl.
He is higher than Leon Draisaitl right now. Draisaitl is plus 650. So it's pretty close. And then it really falls off after Draisaitl. It goes to Barkov at 18-1. So
because I don't think Draisaitl's that much behind McDavid, to be bluntly honest. Look at their impacts, at key goals in the series. So
I agree.
And you look at their 5-on-5 numbers. Like, I know McDavid, like people like, okay, made a great play on the Draisaitl goal. It's unreal. I totally get it. It's a phenomenal play. But if you look at the overall play, I don't see how you can say Leon Draisaitl hasn't been just as impactful as McDavid.
Yeah, fair. All right, there you go, boys. That is a wrap on this week's edition of Fill in the Blank, brought to you by Bet365.
And that segues in nicely to the Stanley Cup Final. Game 3 tonight. Then they'll have 2 days off. They'll play Game 4 on Wednesday. People wondering why the 2 days off in Florida, because the NBA and the NHL and the TVs, they don't like to have the championships on the same night. And the NBA had booked in Wednesday. So that's why they're going on Thursday. Frank, the can't get much closer. The fact that it's 2 games go to overtime, although I should point out, it's not, for a long time, you didn't have the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final both go to overtime. However, in 2014, 2013, 2012, they all did. Games 1 and 2 went to overtime. And the only difference was in 2014, they actually went 3 out of the first 5, and LA won all of them. The other ones were split. So same as Florida being split. Do you see any advantage for either team heading into Game 3?
Honestly, I don't. Both of what makes these teams super successful and special, we've seen on display. Florida's aggression has been key. The Oilers found patient ways to break through and be opportunistic. We've seen Edmonton's star players be out of this world, and that McDavid sequence with the toe drags and getting it over to Draisaitl is truly one of the most special goals we've seen in the last 25 years in the NHL. And I find it amazing. It hasn't been talked about a ton in relation to it. The puck was on edge for most of that as well before he found a way to settle it and send it over to Draisaitl. Crazy goal. And it just, for a bit there against the Panthers in the first period, the Edmonton Oilers looked like Harlem Globetrotters. And then you get the big pushback and punch back from the Panthers in the second period in both games so far to open the series. I just think the margins are incredibly thin. My bold prediction before the series started was that no team is going to win 2 games in a row. We'll see what the Panthers do tonight. But it feels like I don't know. This is a funny way to say it, but it feels like it's hard to envision a path in which we don't get to at least a Game 6.
Well, it'd be hard. Yeah, someone's going to have to win the next 3 for that to happen. I look at Edmonton, and you're bang on. Like, Florida's domination has been in the second period, and it's been noticeable in both games. They've really controlled the second period. The long change, Edmonton's got caught in their own zone quite often. Where Edmonton has struggled, funny enough, they haven't been that clean out of their own zone. And last game, like there was one shift where I counted 6 turnovers, and it was forwards. You had the puck on the boards, and they're resorting to just wanting to dump it up the board sometimes without even looking. And it's not leading to anything good. So I'm sure Chris Knobloch and his coaching staff on the weekend, they'll be looking at that, showing film. Guys, sometimes they have time and they're just flipping the puck out, right? Like up on the boards, thinking, but Florida kills you on the boards. Mm-hmm. They dominate on the boards. They did it to Carolina. So Edmonton's going to need to make a few more tape-to-tape passes in their own zone. Well, now it's not easier said than done. Florida's a really good forechecking team, but that's what you have to adapt to. And you know what? I look at Edmonton and their second periods have been awful. So they got to be better there. Florida, I think, wants a better start, right, in the first period. So each team probably doesn't love their first, 40 minutes of the, if we combine first and second periods. And what's interesting I found is the longer the games have gone and both have been late, Matthew Tkachuk, he's clearly hurt, Frank. Like you look at him in the third periods and then in overtime, and I wonder, how much I think the 2-day break probably helps him. I would think maybe more than other players. And then another 2-day break could be beneficial because he is clearly laboring. And I noticed it late in the third and then into overtimes where he just, because usually players, you take some sort of needle, Frank, freezing, whatever it is. Well, it wears off. And it just, his effectiveness was noticeably lower the later the games went.
You know whose lack of effectiveness has also been very apparent is Alexander Barkov. He has not been very good in the first 2 games. He is a step and a half slow, which is it's kind of mind-blowing because that never happens. Even if he physically isn't as fast as the players he's playing against, mentally he's usually 2 to 3 steps ahead of them that it evens out because he's that smart. And that part has been very clear that Barkov has not been at his best, which I'm curious to see if that rebounds now on home ice. Chris Knobloch mentioned over the weekend that he knows that Florida wants to play more of a matchup game. They've now got last change. They're going to be able to dictate some of that. The Oilers are hoping to balance some of that out by their ability to roll 4 lines instead of Florida's 3.
Yeah.
But they're going to need Barkov to be much better.
Well, I'm looking at Barkov in the series is currently 15th in 5-on-5 minutes amongst the 2 teams. Now, Verhaeghe and Reinhart have played more, and then it's obviously defensemen, and defensemen play more because there's fewer of them. But Barkov hasn't been on the ice for a goal for 5-on-5 for the Panthers. That to me is surprising for them. He hasn't been on the ice for 1. Right, like Nosich and Gadjevich are 4th line guys, Rodrigue, Barkov, Reinhart, that whole line. I mean, on the ice for a goal yet. So that to me is an area where Florida's odds of winning the series get better if Barkov gets going offensively, and I think are going to be pretty low if he doesn't get going. I don't think you can win a playoff series if your number 1 center isn't producing. Like Sam Bennett's producing unreal, and that's great. But they'll need Barkov to get going here. What do you think? Now, Paul Maurice at home, we've seen it. He likes to get the matchups he wants. And right now, the Barkov-McDavid matchup hasn't really been great for him. Do you think he chases it at home a lot? Or does he look to maybe put Bennett's line out there against him a bit?
I think he looks to change it up. I think doing the same thing again would be crazy.
Really? See, I think he's going to challenge Barkov and Reinhart and say, hey, fellas, you're the Selke boys? We're at home ice now.
Why not see what it looks like a period or 2 away from it? That's what I would
say.
That's
fair. Yeah. Could try it. But it is, you're right. Barkov, that's a very good point. Like that, him and Reinhart really have been pretty quiet, both of them collectively.
And what's up with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins?
I don't know. It's playoff time. I saw a hit in the first period that, makes me think it's a core. I think he's going to play. I know he didn't skate yesterday, but I'd kind of be surprised if he doesn't show up and play. Now, how effective he's going to be, good question. But that's...
And what do you think of the Oilers? They appeared to show that they're changing up their defense pairs.
Yeah, you know what? They've actually done that, Frank, a few times in the playoffs, and then actually the pairs didn't go that way in the game. They like to practice different pairs at times because they switch up in games. So having seen it a few times this year, because the last time they did it, I was like, oh, they're going to change. And then the game started, and guess what? They didn't change. So I know people are talking like, oh, Darnell Nurse is really struggling. And I'm like, he hasn't been on the ice for a goal against 5-on-5. Like he made there's, if you don't like the power play goal, sure. He's missed some passes, 100%. But like icings, here's the other thing we should talk about, Frank. Have you seen the trend in icings in this series? Like when you get to overtime, it's an ice fest. There was 11 icings in game 1 overtime, 13 in total. And then there was 9 and then 13. Like I was just like, what the hell is going on? Like the first period had no icings. The second period had 1. And then it just ramps up into the third and overtimes, like significantly.
Well, Paul Maurice talked about that too, saying that there's some icings that are good and some are bad. That, if you're trying to get out of trouble and you're under siege, like by all means, live for another day. But there's a couple that just absolutely kill you when you're not, and you just make a poor decision or a panic decision, and all of a sudden the puck's right back in your end again with a faceoff. So yes, have noticed the trend. It's been significant in the overtime and pronounced, but I'm wondering about the Oilers defense pair and how they, what you're saying in terms of Darnell Nurse and the goal against is a stat thing. I'm looking at an eye test thing, and there's no question that with Troy Stecher out of the lineup, and you're always going to take having Ekholm back in. There's no question. Like you're excited to get your number 1 defenseman back, or 2, I guess, if you're calling Bouchard your 1. But that said, it's taking Stecher out has really thrown things off in a tough way that I think they had gotten used to each other. Everyone had really been playing with a rhythm and flow that I think the Oilers have had a tough time adjusting to it. Is that crazy?
Yeah, like a lot of people said that, but I looked at the 6 games that Stecher and Nurse played together, 5-on-5, and like they got crushed, and like they had a 40% shot for share. Like that's awful. And Nurse in the other games in the playoffs was at 52. So I
think that's one of those where the stat doesn't meet the eye test.
And it's possible, right? It's possible. I look at like there are some guys on both sides that have some pretty ugly numbers, in this series. Like you look at Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad. They've been outshot 31-13 for Ekblad, 30-15 for Forsling. They don't have a goal 4 on the ice. They've given up 2. So I think there's quite a few guys that gain a short series in small sample size. Some of the numbers can, maybe be misleading. I think at times, Kulak playing is offside. He isn't as effective as if he plays naturally on the left side. But when you got 4 lefties, someone's going to have to do it. So even if you switch up the pairs and you go Nurse and Bouchard, and they haven't played a ton together, that's why, Frank, I'm not ready yet to think that Knobloch's going to make that change. He could, but I'm not ready. Now, we did see it in game 1 for a few shifts, right? Klingberg played with Ekholm for a few shifts, and it was actually Wallman with Bouchard, funny enough, and they kept Nurse and Kulak together. So I've seen Paul Coffey, he switches it up. He's got a real good feel for his blue line. So, what I saw in practice, I don't know. I'm just not putting a bunch of stock in it. But in the game, I wouldn't be surprised if we see his defense pairs, not just go 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. And he plays different guys with each other. We even saw that in game 1.
Mm-hmm. I think they just need to change it up a little bit. That's all.
Yeah. Well, they might. Like both teams, like they're 8-8. Like I love the fact that we got goals in this series. I just want to say that. Like it's refreshing. You got lead changes. It's back and forth. Like the odd 2-1 game is great, but 4-3 games back and forth. You got Corey Perry tying the game, the latest ever in Stanley Cup Finals history. Like it's been an entertaining first 2 games.
Oh my God.
So,
I really hope game 2
continues.
is one of the better games I've ever seen live and in person.
Yeah.
In my life.
It had everything you want, right? It has hits, great plays, some big, like that's a funny thing, Frank. There was 8-9 goals in the game, and there was lots of really big saves.
Yeah, I would say though, we're probably due for one of those low scoring games. Like I still and firmly believe the Oilers are going to have 1 or 2 nights in this series where goals are going to be very hard to come by because they're not going to be able to pick through Florida.
Yeah, potentially. And well, you could say the same, like Edmonton and Dallas and Vegas shut them, like the two best teams off the rush, shut them right down. So right now, Edmonton is struggling adapting to the aggressive forecheck of Florida. And I really think if they can find it, because that's the only way Florida plays. So if you can find a way to limit it, you'll have success. Easier said than done. But if they can find a way to come out of their zone smoother, I think they'll be better. Meanwhile, Florida, I think where Florida, Frank, has gotten beat really is the odd time just by, well, number one, I think they got to cut down their penalties, right? Like I don't think they want to do that. Now, I know that those were a lot of shortened power plays. Like Edmonton twice in that game took penalties on their own power play. Terrible. Like I think that's just such a momentum killer. But if Florida, they're going to have to be, I think, a little bit more disciplined, because if you're giving Edmonton 5 or 6 power play chances, they're going to burn you.
Agree.
For more than one.
Aaron Ekblad has had some bad penalties so far.
Well, and he's going to free agency, right? I don't think he's signing in Florida. Do you?
He made a very impassioned plea at Media Day saying that he's bled for the Florida Panthers and that he would do everything to stay. I'm with you. I think he's a guy that has slowed pretty considerably and his impact has been less and less. I think it's a difficult situation given how much he's meant to the team to move on, but I think in the long haul, it's probably in their best interest.
And I think, Frank, we're seeing, like, if you look at McCrimmon in Vegas, you look at Brisebois in Tampa, I think you're seeing some GMs say, you know what, man, these guys, they did bleed for us and they gave us a lot, but we can go back and look at other regimes who kept their guys, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and look what happened, right? Like it's not pretty. Like it is hard. San Jose never won, but they were a really good team. Vlasic, they kept these guys and it just didn't work out. And so I think sometimes the right decision is the hard one. And you look and say, geez, we really like Aaron Ekblad, but moving forward, he's not going to be the Aaron Ekblad that he was for the first decade plus. He's just not.
You know, it's a fact of life. But that said, if you're the Panthers and you're going to prioritize your pending free agents on who to keep and who to have walk, how would you rank them? Sam
Bennett's number one, man, and it's not really close for me, right? Like he now I know, like I'm also, some of these numbers I've seen for Sam Bennett I find
are outrageous. They're utterly outrageous.
Yeah, like come on, Sam Bennett's
having $11 million are like out of your mind.
Yeah, they're not paying him more than Barkov or Kachuk. What do we do? Like, there's no chance. I don't even think Sam Bennett would be asking for that, and I don't think there's a team on the open market. But Sam Bennett would be number one for me.
He's not for me. My number one would be Brad Marchand, because I think you can get a player who's more productive in the regular season and equally as productive, maybe not exactly equally, but equally as impactful in the postseason. And the term commitment is half of what you'd have to give Bennett. I know he's way younger. Bennett is way younger. But I'm keeping Marchand. I think he's such a huge part of their leadership core and everything that goes into it. And not to say Sam Bennett isn't, but I want half the term commitment instead of getting into a bidding war to keep him.
Well, that's fair. I don't know. Like, I think the public bidding war, I don't know if it's going to be there for Florida. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think for Bennett, I think it absolutely will be
but look, only if he wants to go there is what I'm saying.
Well, but either way, someone's going to try and make it very difficult. Hey, we'll give you 7 times 8.5. I just don't know that Florida can go that high. I don't know that they'd want to go that high.
I would agree. Yeah.
And if you're Florida, I think you have an ability here. Let's say they win. That's the perfect time to shake hands with a couple of these guys and say, hey, like, we're just resetting things a bit. We've won 2, not to say we don't want to be greedy and win 3 or win 4 in a 6-year span. It's just that I think it's a little bit easier after you get your cookies, get your name etched on the cup to move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, see, I had Bennett 1, Marchand 2, and I actually have Nate Schmidt 3 because I think he's going to cost you very little. And man, he has made some unreal plays in this series for Florida. I've really liked him, and he's not going to, like, for a third pair. And I think sometimes people undervalue the importance of a third pair defenseman. Plays a lot of minutes, plays 50 minutes a night for your team. You're going to pay Nate Schmidt like, $1.5 million? So I would have him.
He's like, that's the thing. He's going to cost you more after this run. And that's the pitch to these guys is come here, rehab your game, take less, shine in the play. That's what they did with Ekman Larson. It's what they like, and then go get paid again somewhere else. Nate Schmidt is going to get $4 million somewhere.
What?
You don't think?
No. God, no.
$3.5 to $4 million.
Ooh. I'd be wild if you got that, man. Like,
so if I'm Florida, I'm just pitching the next guy that I think can do the same thing.
Yeah,
Come
well,
here
that's
for
possible.
$1.5 million. Will work with you. Sylvain Lefebvre, Sly as they call him, has done an excellent job making every player that's come through the door there better. And we'll have a chance to win, and we'll send you on your way to your next payday.
Yeah.
That's the play. That's the pitch. And anyone that gets too expensive, it's a hearty handshake and a hug.
Yeah. Like Nate Schmidt's had an unreal playoffs. In the regular season, he was like a 19-point guy, right? Like what he was supposed to be. So his playoffs are unreal, but his playoffs are they're the massive outlier of outliers for offensive production. He's got 11 points, man, in 19 games.
You're proving why he's going to get $3.5 to $4 million.
Ekman Larson got 3.5, and he was like a top pair guy. Like, I don't know. So I'd be, geez, if somebody does that, good for Nate Schmidt. But I'd be surprised. We'll see. But I'd have him number 3 because I think I'd get him lower than that. But maybe I'm wrong. So Bennett, I'd still want Bennett. I like Marchand. I would take both of them for sure. But I think Sam Bennett, like, I think they're in a window to compete for more than just a few years. So that's why I'd keep Bennett. I think Bennett brings you into the fight, Frank, and having guys that elevate you even when they're not on, like you're on the bench and they elevate you. I think there's a value in that. Not to 9 or 10 million though. We agree with that. I was
going to say Marchand does all those same things, and you have to give him less than half the term.
Yeah, but he's only got what? Like he's 37. How many more years he got? 2 or 3? Sam Bennett's going to give you that for 7.
But his regular seasons are all more productive than Bennett. I'm taking the blend of both. I am.
Well, last year they each had 51 points. So
okay. Well, Marchand had 3 off-season surgeries last year.
Yeah.
What's Sam Bennett's excuse? And that's his career high.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, he's not a power play guy. So we'll see. But I like both of them, and if they get both of them, then their window's going to stay open, I think. Frankie, enjoy the games. We will chat later this week. It's a rundown brought to you by Bet365.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.